Hey, magic makers, have you ever had one of those weeks where you swear this is the week, we're getting back on track, and then the week starts, and then all it takes is one little curveball, and you feel like you're already behind before your coffee gets cold? Yeah, me too. And I want to talk to you about this client that came to me, and she's like, Kim, I'm ready to get off the roller coaster. And I'm like, yeah, girl, let's go. And she came to me and she was like, I'm done with the cutting, the restriction. I just want to live a life where like I'm at a weight that I feel good, that I'm no longer just obsessing. And I was like, been there, got this t-shirt. And so we spent, the next few weeks, we were building her plan, we're slowly increasing her calories, working through her food choices, and really teaching her and her body to trust food again. She was doing amazing. But after 3 weeks, she comes to me and she's like, Kim, I don't think maintenance is for me. And I was like, what happened? What's going on? And she had one bad week. We all do. She had one bad week, and she wasn't getting all the things right. She's like, Kim, I didn't get in the protein. I'm not getting in my steps. I don't like what I'm eating and all the things. And here's where most women over 40 get is that for years we were told like here is the menu that we have to follow. And we follow this menu, we follow this plan, we follow this blueprint, I'm going to get the results that I want. And for many of us, I am a former recovering member of the Perfectionist Club. We meet on Wednesdays. If you're not nailing it immediately, all of a sudden you want to throw in the towel. And that's the thinking that's keeping you stuck, right? You want the results and you want them right freaking now. And you're so concerned about getting it right, right? About lining up the steps just so that we're no longer listening to our body. We're no longer seeing the trees for the forest, right? You're looking at the whole forest and you're like, I don't know which tree to pick, versus you nailed one thing. You got your protein in. You don't want to slow down. You want to run at 500 miles an hour versus taking the slow steps. And I get that. In today's show, I want it to be less about a lecture and I want it to be more about a conversation because I'm building something right now and I don't want to guess what you need. I want to hear from you. Like I want to hear from you. I want you to feel it. I want you to see it so that today I'm going to walk you through some of the real questions that I'm doing behind the scenes. I'm thinking, bringing you, opening up the curtain, bringing you in so that I can start to gather some answers and begin a dialogue with you, right? Because I know what it's like to stare in the mirror and not like what I see. I know what it's like to not be happy at the beach because you're like, oh, right? Everyone's staring at me. BT dubs, no one's staring at you, except for the dog, right? And they're probably like, your food looks really good. And if you want to share, I'm all in. Even a seagull staring at you because they want your food. But here's what I know, right? Most women tell me the first thing to go when life gets lifey, right? They'll tell me it's workouts, it's meal prep, it's sleep, or just caring. Right? If you're being totally honest, it's just caring. And my question is not just what drops, is why. Is it time? Is it mental energy? Is it the 47 steps you tell yourself that are required to pull off this Pinterest perfect workout, this Pinterest perfect meal, or whatever it is that you've told yourself, right? Because so many of us have these expectations in our head. And if the expectation in our head doesn't meet our reality, it's shit. Right? That's just really where we have this very black and white thinking when it comes to that. Or um maybe you've just tried your success is tied to doing everything right. And the moment you're not nailing everything perfectly, I'm out. And I get that. We want that sense of accomplishment. And a lot of us, and I myself included, are praised because we're able to get it all done. Oh, how does she do it? Man, how does Sarah get it all done? How does Sarah have 3 kids and she still goes to the gym and she still goes to the grocery store? How does she do it all? And we all are like in awe. Meanwhile, we don't know Sarah's backstory, right? We don't know that Sarah's been like, crying in her closet when she gets home. We don't know any of this. And so, what if it's not that you're inconsistent? But the strategy you're following is, I had a client, email me the other day and she's like, Kim, I just keep trying to go back to what I was doing a few months ago. And I just can't get there. I just can't get there. And it's the same thing I told her that I'm going to tell you. We have seasons. And I know I've been on this because I'm going to be on it until you freaking get it. The reason there are seasons outside, like imagine I live in New England. Imagine if it was winter every goddamn month. For 12 months, it was winter. Ugh, I would be miserable. But we need the seasons, right? There are times in our life when we are just busier and we have to own it. We have to have that ebb and flow for when we are in that season and accept it. It's not a failure that when things are a little bit slower, you can do 10 things. But when things get busier, you look at the 10 things, and you're like, okay, what are the 1 to 3 things I know I can do, lay my head on the pillow and not feel like I just laid down. I didn't get anything done. That's that is what has been the game changer for myself, been the game changer for my clients, right? Because life is rarely smooth. Like if your life is like smooth sailing, call me. I want to know what the hell you do because I can't think of a time that my life is this, right? My life is here, it's here, it's here. And like, I don't have the highs and the lows as much as I used to, but I do have highs and I do have lows. The last 5 days I have not worked out. Yeah, I have not worked out for 5 days. I was traveling, I had workers at my house. It just wasn't, I just couldn't figure out in my schedule how to get all of that done and be home in time for the workers coming to my house and for the travel. It just wasn't possible. Old Kim would have spiraled. I would have been like, oh my God, well, if I got up at 4 a.m., no, girlfriend, I'm not doing that shit anymore. Right? Life is never going to be smooth. And I just had to accept, you know what? I got 3 days in last week and I'm now starting. And I got 3 days in last week, and I'm looking at this week, and I know I can get at least 3 days in, possibly 4, and I'm okay with that, right? I have to like pick my pace and make peace with pick my pace and make peace with it. My pace last week, batshit crazy. My pace this week, get easing up a little bit, right? So the problem isn't the willpower, it's not the discipline, right? If that's the only way I can measure my success, that oh, I must work out 5 days a week. And if I get to 4, is it shit? No, right? We've been taught to measure our success by perfection, right? If you get it all done, good for you, Sharon. And if you miss one wrong, Sharon, close but no cigar. And the one, you know, and I can't tell you that like I woke up and I'm in this enlightened being, I wish, right? It's taking me some time and it's going to take you some time. Like some of these mindsets are like cement up here, right? It's like chipping away at the cement. It's part of like how we were raised. Like my mom was a perfectionist. She was always like, I think I've shared this story multiple times. Like I would come home and I would get C's in my report card. And I'd be like, I got C's. And she was like, and she's like, "Ah, you don't get C's." I was like, I'm average. And she'd be like, girl, you ain't average. Right. So like those little thoughts, like my mother told me that 40 years ago, and it's still in my freaking brain. Um, but it's those little things that like, had 40 years of deprogramming, it's a little bit like a cult. Um, but if we're being honest with each other, if it was, I needed another diet, I needed another plan, I needed another workout, I have the results by now. Because the average woman over 40 has been on at least 16 diets. Yeah, you heard me right, 16 diets. So what do you actually need? Do you need more structure? Do you need more freedom? Do you need someone in your corner to talk to when you're just down the spiral and you just want to just have the bagel and forget about it, right? I want you to really think if you could design the support system without overthinking the crap out of it, what would it include? For me, the biggest thing was I needed freedom. I lived in this box for a really long time, and I needed to be able to flex the box and shrink the box, but not like collapse the box and like go buck wild, right? It just needed to like be able to kind of the best way I always like to describe this is on a scale of 1 to 10, right? One being like complete restriction, 10 being like lose your ever-loving mind. I needed to be able to find a way to live between 5 and 7, right? Where it's like, yeah, if I needed to do something, I can get to 5. If I wanted a little more flexibility, I would come to 7, but I would be ebbing and flowing between 5 and 7, right? Is where I would live because, like many of you, I was either like, if it wasn't nailed down, it was going in my mouth, or, ooh, I can't have that, right? So I really wanted to find something that was flex with my life, right? A routine that flex with my life. I was really looking for someone who could answer my questions in real time. And you know, I wanted my questions to be more than can I have this kiwi, right? Asking for permission for a specific food. I was looking for a way to just like I just needed how do I blend all this shit into my life is really where I was going for, right? Where I didn't have these big highs and I didn't have these big lows. And I wanted a way to stop feeling off track all the damn time, that I was like crushing it or I was getting crushed by it, right? And finally, breaking free of using the word crushing it in my vocabulary. It was like, this really helped me was the good, better, best, right? So it was like the different scenarios, like what's good, what's better, what's best. And that's what really kind of helped me again chip away at the cement that was going on in my mind. Because it's like, you don't need another set of rules, right? Because so many of us have been living in a self-imposed diet prison. We put ourselves in there, we locked the key and we threw it out the door. You need someone who sees you, like who can help you build something that sticks when life gets chaotic. Because, you know, life doesn't have to be chaotic every day of your life, but it is going to get chaotic. There are going to be times when you're shuttling your kids here and, you need to be kid one needs to be here, kid two needs to be there, you need to be here. And you're like, how am I all going to get it done? Where if you had someone who sees you, right? Someone who's like, all right, Sharon, blah, blah, on your plate. Let's figure out something, right? How do we brainstorm? How do you get this done without you feeling like you're being judged? Because for so many people, like you're not being, I don't judge. I'm like, okay, that seems like a lot. And sometimes I know that when I'm in the thick of all of my stuff, it's really easy for me to just like implode. But if someone else is looking at it through third party eyes, they have more clarity, right? And that's one of the main reasons why, I still have a coach till today. Cause like they're just things that like I don't think about that because I'm so close to it. Like this is what I do over and over and over again. But someone else to ask me a different question to see it from a different perspective, that I was like, oh, okay, that's what you're talking about. Right. And so and you need someone who sees you, right? Someone who gets where you are and you can explain, and sometimes just talking it out. Sometimes typing it out makes sense. Like someone who can help you build something that sticks, even again when things get chaotic. Someone who's not going to let you quit because you're not nailing it immediately, right? And as a coach, my job is to hold the mirror up to your face, to be like, you told me you want an A, here's A waiting right for you. All you have to do is take one bloody step towards it. And, you're not going to sprint. You might trip, you might stumble, but I'm here to help you dust yourself off and talk about how do we improve, right? Is that 1% better? And, let's talk about the plan that you had from your 30s, right? The one with the early morning boot camps or the boot camps in general, the low fat everything, the squeezing into clothes, that you hated wearing. does that feel doable anymore? Do you even want that? I look back at what I did in my 30s, and I'll admit that for most of my 30s, I was doing fitness competitions. But if I look back in my 30s, the thought of going to the gym for 90 minutes just does not, I don't have that mentally in me anymore. The thought of weighing and measuring everything I put in my mouth, hard no. That's just what I don't want to do anymore. And here's where I ask you, like, what are you done with? Right? What are you done doing? There was a woman who used to take my classes regularly, and she emailed me, and she was going to these boot camps, and she's in her 40s, and she's going to these boot camps, and she's like, Kim, they told me in 8 weeks I was going to lose 6 pounds. And I was like, okay, so what happened? She's like, I actually am heavier. And I was like, okay. And, and I was like, well, I am not someone who's going to jump into someone else's program. She shared with me, and I was like, okay, where do you want me to give you feedback? And I said, I struggle with boot camps because I don't think they have enough strength. But again, sight unseen, I don't know. So I'm just going to give you kind of like my 35,000 foot level. I said, I don't know what you're eating, but your output might not be matching your input. So let's, have a look at that. But have these conversations with the person that you're working with. Because, I think if you are 30 something year old person working with a 40, 50 something person, I think now it's changed a bit, but I don't think initially you understood the 40 something person. As someone who's a trainer in their 30s, I did not fully understand what was going on with women in their 40s. And now the pushing hard, the eating less, I know was doing them a disservice. I know that 1000% now. And again, what you don't know, you don't know. And as you get more knowledge, and also because menopause becomes more, I would say, mainstream, you're able to talk about it. And so um, then you start asking yourself the questions, right? As I mentioned, like the workouts that I used to do in my 30s, they don't feel doable to me anymore. I don't want to even do them. And I don't want to beat myself up because I'm not able to recreate that. And are you done beating yourself up for not being able to recreate that? Because I hear regularly from you is that, "Ah, Kim, I used to be able to," and we're like beating ourselves up from the ghost of people past, the ghost of your former self. You know, the question is, what if the problem is that you didn't fall off, but you outgrew your plan? Right? Your body's different, your hormones different, your time's different, your life's different, your season is different, your priorities are different. Maybe you've just evolved and your habits need to evolve with you. And that's not giving up, that's just leveling up, right? So it's like taking a step back and being honest and just asking myself, where am I? And where do I want to go? And what am I willing to do to get there? And, a lot of times when I was a new trainer and I was working at the gym and I would sit down with a new client and be like, okay, Sharon, how many days a week can you work out? And inevitably, they were like, easily 5 to 7 days. And I was like, okay. And I'm like, do you have a family? Do you have a more than full-time job? And like then it was just kind of like the reality would start to set in of like what their life was. And so the question isn't it's about being more, it's about can you be smarter about the time that you have available, right? And this one here is really juicy. Like if you had no rules, no guilt, no food noise, buzzing in your brain, what would you actually change? Right? Would you eat slower? Would you stop negotiating with yourself over the good food, bad food list? Would you finally like enjoy life without feeling like, oh my God, I have to earn it? You know? Because that, my friend, this is the gateway, right? The moment you stop micromanaging every bite, every move, checking off every box on your list is the moment you start showing up in a place of self-respect and not self-control, right? Because one of the things I've noticed about myself, I've noticed about clients that I have is that, I am a recovering control freak. And for us, food and workouts are something that's pretty easy in our control. And one of the things I work with clients on is just kind of like our sphere of control and letting go of the things that like we just have no bleeping control over as much as we want to control the world, right? I want to control like the world with my mind. I can't. I wish you can't control people, you can't control your kids, you can't control your boss, but I can control the food. And that is a powerful drug for a lot of people, including myself. Um, and if I go back to the maintenance client I talked about earlier, she was so busy trying to control every variable that she couldn't hear what her body was telling her. That her body was telling her, like, oh, you're finally pooping every day. That's a win. You are finally getting at least 6 hours of sleep because she was doing 4 to 5 when I first met her. That's a win, right? She couldn't feel the subtle signals that her body was saying, "Hey, this is working," because she was so busy managing all the other minutia that she couldn't see some of the other subtle signs. And that's where, I think so many of us go wrong. But none of that mattered because she wasn't getting 100%, right? She wasn't getting 100% with the extra credit, right? So here's where I want to lean in. And if any of this made sense, I don't know, maybe for some of you listening, you're like, oh, I tuned out and you were rambling on. But for some of you who've made it this far, clearly something I said kind of like perked your ears up. Um, I don't want this episode to be a one-way conversation. I want this to be a two-way conversation. And if you ever thought, I wish I had support that didn't feel like a lecture. I'm tired of starting over. I want health habits that actually fit my life. Then tell me. Like I'm building something and it's not about doing less. It's about doing what works for you, works for you in the here and now. Being able to ebb and flow what's going on. And I don't want you to think about, oh, what I was able to do in my 30s or my 20s. Not what I want you to be able to, not what you think you should do, but like who you are. And if this is like, okay, this sounds like very interesting, cool, do me a favor. In the show notes, I have a link to a quick survey. Don't worry, it can be completely anonymous. If you don't want to be anonymous, great. I'm not going to bug you or sell you anything. I just am looking for information. And for those of you guys who share your email address with me, I will send you a free cup of coffee, uh, gift card, my kings and queens gift cards. Or do me a favor, just screenshot this and give me your biggest aha in the socials because I don't want to create another program that makes you feel like you have to check all the boxes. I want to create something that clicks with you, that you finally like, yes, someone gets me, right? You know, I want you to think that it's not about nailing it immediately. I want that something that grows with you, meets you where you are, helps you build trust in your body again, helps you build trust in you again. And maybe that starts with saying, this is what I need. Maybe it starts with like, let me fill out the survey. I got nothing else, nothing to lose. Yeah, I don't have anything to lose. So Magic Makers, I will see you next week. And think about, your body's not broken. She's just tired of being ignored and beat down. All right, stay fabulous.